Greetings, wrestling fans, and welcome to Fannin's Flashbacks, the podcast that nobody asked for, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. This podcast is going to cover tales from IWA Midsouth during my 12 years with the company, and it will be a part of the VNMVS Podcast Network. This podcast is intended for mature audiences only due to the foul language and graphic details about deathmatch wrestling that it will contain. This will be your backstage pass to get a peek behind the curtain at what led to the downfall of the craziest independent wrestling promotion of the late 1990s, early 2000s. And without any further ado, Nick Manawa, hit the music. Greetings, wrestling fans, and welcome to episode 7 of Fannin's Flashbacks. It's the podcast nobody asked for, but I decided to give it to you anyway. These are tales from my time in IWA Midsouth from 1997 to 2009. And today I am joined by a former IWA Midsouth heavyweight champion, former IWA Midsouth tag team champion, former two-time IWA Midsouth hardcore champion, and the 2003 King of the Death Matches, Man Pondo. Pondo, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you, man?
Oh, well, you know, the shoot job drags me down every day, but it's good that I've started to get back into like talking to some people I haven't seen in decades. And
The last time we saw each other, I was at Heroes and Legends, and I was in a hurry to get to some haunted houses, and all these people was trying to stop me, and somebody said, "Hey, Pondo," and I walked on by, but then I recognized the voice, and I turned around, and I said, "Ah, Jim," and I came back. You was the only one I came back for.
yeah, and I remember there was I think it was a Billy Corrigan show or something that was up here in Chicago, and I had taken my wife and we went, and it was well before NWA. I can't remember there was like a company
Resistance.
Resistance Pro maybe. Yeah. And I remember like I went because Mickey was going to be there and I didn't know who else was going to be there. And I'd like seen her, and then I'm just sitting out in the crowd and playing on my phone, and my wife's tapping me going, "The guy in the ring's trying to get your attention." And I look up and it's you and Brad Bradley, and you're like standing in the ring going, "Hello, Jeb." I'm like, "Oh, hey." Wasn't even paying attention. So,
I'm easy to ignore. I'm easy to ignore.
not really, not really. Um, so I had gotten your information from a American Kickboxer because he had reached out to me and was one of the first people that I had on the podcast. This is episode 7. So I reached out and asked him how to get in touch with you, because if there's anybody that's got some stories about IWA Mid-South, it's going to be Madman Pondo.
I did. I got him.
Well, we'll see how much of a memory we can jog here going down memory lane. I always start these off by asking guys how they became a wrestling fan. And I believe Nick Manawa told me that you used to go to some live shows where you were born, or like your hometown area. So let's just tell you, how did you become a wrestling fan, and what were these shows that you used to go to?
So every Sunday, my family would go to my great grandma and grandpa's house for Sunday lunch and then dinner and all that. And the house was always kind of quiet. I mean, there was a couple of laughs every now and then, nothing too much. But about I think 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, Channel 7 Wrestling would come on, which is, I don't know what channel it was for you guys, but CWA or USWA, whichever one you want to call it. And can you cuss on here or can you not
Oh
cuss
yeah.
on here?
Oh yeah, we run a disclaimer at the start to say that there's adult themes and language and violence discussed on here. So
So it was always quiet. my family's pretty tame, don't like being center of attention, but every Sunday when Channel 7 Wrestling, or Jerry King Lawler's Wrestling, they used to call it, would come on, there was dirty motherfuckers and cheating sons of bitches. Me and my brother were so just thought that that was the funniest thing ever. And my grandma and my mom would tell both of them, "Hey, you guys got to stop. The kids are listening," and they would for a minute. But as soon as something else happened, dirty motherfuckers and stuff like that. So that's what made me a wrestling fan. And then, so I lived not that far from the Evansville Coliseum, and I would go and stay with my grandma in Carmine, Illinois, and she would like to go shopping in Evansville, Indiana. So she would just take me to the Coliseum, drop me off. This was before cell phones. So she would always wait a couple hours and then go and park outside the Coliseum waiting for me to get back. But even before then, any independent show that happened, ICW's Angelo Paffo's company used to run in Harrisburg and Carmi and Enfield. Uh, Bruiser Brody and Abdul, I saw them wrestle a couple of times around the St. Louis area, Centralia, Illinois area. And then, so there was this guy, if you did good in school, would take you to wrestling matches. And some of them that he would take me to was in Chicago, which is 5 hours away, but they had everything. They had AWA and WWF, WCW. The one that I liked the most there was Windy City Wrestling, because they always did obscure matches that was always cool to me. Like I saw the first Bam Bam Bigelow versus Bam Bam Terry Gordy for the Bam Bam name. Of course, it was a no disqualification. I mean, it was a disqualification. They both kept their name. John Sword took on the Barbarian. Sorry, John Sword took on Bruiser Brody. Fucking Colonel De Beers took on Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, they had the kind of matches that I like to see, you know, over the WWE and WCW and all that. I always liked those kind of matches the most.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, I grew up in the Chicago area. I think I only saw like Windy City one time, just randomly came across it on TV at my grandma's house, because I would like stay at my grandma's when we had moved south of town and couldn't get cable anymore because they didn't run the cable across the river. So I couldn't watch wrestling anymore. So I'd like on the weekends I'd stay at my grandma's sometimes and use their cable. And I just happened to come across Windy City one night, and they had Abdullah the Butcher on it, and that was my first. And it was my first time seeing Abdullah the Butcher, and I was probably 8, 9 years old, maybe at the time, and like he started using the fork on whatever the local jobber was, and I had nightmares for weeks.
It was a guy named Frank the Tank.
Yes.
I was there, and that
you were
arena.
there. Wow, that damn. So what a small world that you were actually at the one show that I saw. But yeah, I had nightmares for quite a while about Abdullah the Butcher after seeing that, and you know, and then to think that if I'd have told myself then that, you know, 15 years later I'd be having breakfast with Abdullah the Butcher and watching him ask the waitress for a fork that he could then use on the show later that night, that it would have blown my mind at that point. So
he would probably love to hear that story, tell you the truth.
Not to jump around, but you know, since we're talking about Abdullah, I remember, was it Highland where you were working Abdullah on one of our shows? And like I had been with him earlier in the day, you know, like I said, I had, you know, breakfast with him and whatever. And had talked with him, and then like someone came and got me and said, Abdullah needs something in the locker room. So then I think it was like he wanted a drink or something. So I got a can of soda from the, concession stand, brought it into the back, and you're sitting with him. And as I walk up to him, he just looks at me and he's like, and you had to look at you patted him and he was like, he's cool. But he was like, thank you, young man. Thank you. And I'm like, I just talked with you. Like,
all right.
But but once he's in character, he's in character. So that's cool that you went to all those shows, and I can definitely see why stuff like that would make you a fan. But when did you decide that, this was something that you wanted to actually do for a living?
Well, it's my mom has a piece of paper. I don't know if they did it in your grade school, but in my grade school, they had a piece of paper and it said, draw what you want to do as your future job. And kids were drawing police officers and doctors, and kiss-ass kids was drawing teachers and stuff like that. But mine had probably one of the worst wrestling rings with two stick people going after each other. And I had to ask my teacher how to spell professional wrestler. But my mom still has that paper today that says, I want to be a professional wrestler. So not until tape trading did I get serious about really thinking about wanting to do it. For people out there who might not know what tape trading was, before the internet, before you could put on the search bar, Slack hits a nun with a fish and something comes up, there was nothing. If you missed it on TV, you missed professional wrestling. But with tape trading, Wrestling Review magazine would give you addresses. The dirt sheets would sometimes give you addresses of people who wanted to trade videotapes of stuff that you had. My parents had one of the only pirated huge satellites in their front yards, one of those things bigger than a van that you had to catch the right signal. So I got all types of wrestling. So I was recording everything that I could get a hold of, and that's when I got a hold of deathmatch wrestling. But it didn't even have a name then. It wasn't deathmatch wrestling. It was just bloody wrestling. And then I knew the oil guy. I worked at a video store, and the oil guy's office was like the parking lot across from it. And he always came in and he would always talk wrestling with me. And one day he came in and said, because he was also a college teacher at Olney Central College. He came in and he said, hey, Pondo, I have a wrestler in my class. I was like, oh, really? I'm like, can you get me that guy's telephone number? And he said, yeah, why? You want to go to his wrestling shows? I said, no, I want to be a wrestler. And that guy was Terry Runyon, the sensational hillbilly, who took me to the school in Olney, Illinois. And I never missed a class. I was just always there. And but Bud Chapman, the guy who trained me, was very basic. Wasn't about blood, wasn't about getting body slammed on the floor or any of the crazy shit. But those videotapes from tape trading, I got a hold of a Masanaga versus Mr. Pogo compilation videotape. I think you probably had it too. I think everybody had it because it was like a big thing at that time. And I watched that so many times that I wore it out. I don't know how you do that to a videotape, but it just to the point where it was, you could see something on the screen, you could hear it, but so I had to buy a different one of lesser quality off of that RF video. But how ironic is it that the guys that I was learning from to be stupid like I am today, I was on first name basis with, like Masanaga. I still go eat at his restaurant. He calls me the American Danger Man. Mr. Pogo always wanted me to work for his company. I worked for Tarzan Goto. Actually, I worked Tarzan Goto at Tarzan Goto's show. I got to meet Nakamagi, all them guys from that tape trading bloody tapes. I got to meet, and Onita, all that shit.
That's really cool that you get to, got to do all that. And, well, I've got Japan on my list of topics to get to later on. But first, let's transition into, you talked about your training and getting into the school and how that was, you were taught the basics, but not any of the crazy stuff. How did you parlay that into getting into IWA? Because you were there before me. You were there like right at the very beginning, even before he was really running it.
I was IWA Midsouth's main event for the first 3 months, getting my shit kicked in on a every Tuesday basis. But so because of that videotape, I told myself, because that's what really impressed me, the deathmatch stuff, the bloody stuff. And I told myself, man, I can do this. So then Ian either got fired or quit. If you talk to him, he got fired. If you talk to everybody else, he quit, whatever. But other way around, sorry. But once I found out he was somewhere near me, I searched until I found him. When I finally found him,
was it the casino?
No.
Okay.
This was before the casino. But when I finally found him, he just took me on the road with him, and I was the crash test dummy everywhere we went. I would come up with ideas that even he would be like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I was always coming up with cool ways to mutilate my body for the entertainment of others, and it just stuck. And yeah, like if you really think about this, and I've said this to other people, and people's even argued with me, and I'll accept it now. But the first two to do death matches in America was Ian and Axel on ECW. You agree to that, right?
That's how I've got introduced to it. I hadn't seen it before.
Then Axel didn't want to do death matches anymore, and Bull Payne took over Axel's spot for 2 or 3 shows. And then Ian wasn't at ECW anymore. And then this motherfucker took over. But I didn't stop. Like, we went all over the place. And then we did the truck stop match, which made the social media at that time, which is the wrestling magazines. I know people find that very weird that there was no social media, and the wrestling magazines was how people figured shit out.
That's how I followed wrestling from, like, when I started at the age of 4. The barber shop in town where I'd go get my hair cut, bald now, but I used to have hair. They had Inside Wrestling, The Wrestler, and PWI. And hell, I just go in there sometimes and ask my mom to take me just so I could read the magazine. Like, I don't even want a haircut. Just let me read the magazines. And, from then until like mid 90s, that's how, other than, you were talking the tape trading, that was your only way to follow what was happening outside of your territory,
That's it. And once that 4-page spread of that truck stop match hit, people started wanting to find out what Man Pondo was all about, which was confusing the shit out of me, because I'm just a small town kid from Florida, Illinois. But I had people reaching out to other wrestlers to reach out to me saying, hey, does this guy want to come in? And it just took off for me, you know. No matter what you say about the man, there would be no Madman Pondo without Ian Rotten. So, I mean, there will be one, but probably not as we know him today.
Well, that's very true. It's IWA Mid-South, one of the reasons why I wanted to start doing this podcast, and I've said it on a few of the episodes so far, is, you know, it tears me apart that, you know, if you try to tell somebody, like, especially for me, IWA was all I did. You know,
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to point to. And, you know, if I tell people, oh, yeah, I worked for IWA Mid-South, you don't want them Googling that, you know, because the company name gets tore down by the associations of the people behind it. And it's a shame that that happened. But
so here's the thing about that. And I'm sure you're going to agree with this. IWA Mid-South was a family. Therefore, every show in the back was a party for all of us. Like, we all joked with each other. We all had good times with each other. Sometimes we fought with each other. But that one sore thumb every once in a while would get in the way. But other than that, IWA Mid-South was one of the funnest companies I've ever worked for.
right.
But
And
people don't want to hear that. They want to
nope.
hear, oh, we want to hear the shitty part about it.
Right. And
There was
it's
a lot of unshitty parts.
Yeah, it gave a lot of people their platform. You know, you said there'd be no Man Pondo. Nobody would know. I mean, nobody knows who the hell I am anyway, but there would really be nobody that would know who the hell I was if it wasn't for the opportunities that were given to me to live out childhood dreams, you know, and the fact that, you know, you have to hide that from some people and be afraid of what they can find out and what it could do to your real job and things like that. It's bad that it ended up that way, but, you know, I'm having a blast getting to talk with guys like you that, you know, I haven't seen in forever, and we get to relive that family atmosphere because, as you said, that's what it was. It was a tight, you know, we had the shirt that said "We Are Family," and we all felt that way, you know,
Yeah.
and as you said, you know, we would fight at times and there would be backstage squabbles, but at the end of the day, we all had a common goal and we all believed in the product and we all loved being there. And because it sure wasn't the money that got us there, you know. But talking about that very beginning, when I first started going, you were feuding with Ox Harley.
Yeah.
And that was January of 1997. When I started going to the K-Mart building, and say you were feuding with Ox Harley. At the time, it had many similarities to what Sandman and Raven were doing in ECW with the storyline. I believe, was it Ox had brought in, what was her name, that was like your ex or something, like sort of how Raven, Lady Vendetta, you know, and so you had that dynamic going with it. And it was my friend Les Johns calling into the hotline to reserve our seats for the next week, but saying, you know, the storyline that you're running between Tarek and Kickboxer is awfully similar to the storyline going on with Sabu and Rob Van Dam right now. And then, you know, the storyline going on with Ox and Pondo, real similar to Raven Sandman. And he ends up getting a call at 2-3 o'clock in the morning from Ian, all pissed off because he had left his phone number on the hotline. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? Nothing like it. Nothing like it. What are your memories of that feud with Ox? And do you think it had any similarities to what Raven and Sandman were doing?
Of course there were similarities. You can't do anything in wrestling anymore without similarities of something.
Right. Everything's been done.
Gussets, when Gussets was was first brought on the scene, I was like, holy shit, that's new. Not anymore. Everybody uses gussets. Skewers in the head. When Masada came up with that, I was like, oh, that's something new. Nothing anymore. So yeah, there was a lot of similarities from. I mean, don't get me wrong. We were in Kentucky. ECW was in Philadelphia. So everybody in Kentucky at IWA Midsouth, I don't give a fuck who they are or if they're lying, was watching ECW. I mean, it was just the coolest shit that any of us had ever seen. And when we would get to the shows, when our family dressing room would circle a chair, we would talk about what we saw on ECW. So yeah, there was probably a lot of a lot of a lot of similarities, but we did it in our own style. I can't say that it's not close to the same style, but it was still our own shit. To us, it was our own shit. The people in the crowd that wasn't following ECW were following us. Therefore, it was our shit at that point. The whole Ox Harley thing that fell through huge between me and him, but me and Ox, we had great chemistry together.
You did. You really did.
Every match, we made sure that there was something different in each match, and that wasn't dumb Ox thinking about that. That was this brain saying, "Look, we did that for the last match. We got to do something different this match." And I don't know if you remember this, but there was a window pane with the wood and the crisscross and the windows all in it, and it was in the ring. And I got the idea that as long as Ox hit me with the wood part, it would just come down over my shoulders. And Ox argued and argued and argued. He's like, it's gonna cut the shit out of you. And I'm like, I know that, but that this is what we do. This is our shit. So during the match, he's arguing with me and he's saying, I'm not gonna do it. And I'm like, yes, you're gonna do it. And then we do something else. He goes, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. And I'm like, yes, you're gonna do that. So finally I told him, I said, you better do it or I'm picking it up and I'm doing it to you. Therefore, he did it right away. So, but one of my coolest memories was after he hit me with that window pane and it came all the way down to my knees. I remember Tracy Smothers in the back as loud as he could saying, he's dead. Pondo's dead. He's dead. I could hear him saying that shit. That was a pretty good moment for me to hear Tracy Smothers say that.
And the sad thing is there was probably no cameras running to record any of it.
There was, but I mean, it was just like one camcorder, and then Ian and Devin would go to Gator's house and put the worst commentary that you could ever think of on them, and nobody gave a shit about those. But I mean, there's a lot of moments at that K-Mart building that happened that we can only talk about. So the first Eddie Gilbert Memorial, spectacular, fucking spectacular. But if you watch the video of it and listen to the commentary during it, and you hear Ian talking about rats in the crowd and shit like that, and getting off the base of, I will never forget showing that to my friends, and my friends being like, why is this guy talking about other shit? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, you got Tommy Gilbert and Dory Funk Jr. in the ring, and other shit's getting talked about, and I don't know. But you're right about that. I got so you remember the big screen TV that Tom Burton? Okay.
Yes.
So you remember it was sitting back there for hours. When I put it in the ring, and Tom slammed me in that TV. I don't know if you know this or not, there was still an electrical charge in that TV.
I did not know that.
I didn't tell anybody. But if I leaned to the left, my right was getting shocked. If I leaned to the right, everything was getting shocked. And I wasn't worried about the next thing getting ready to happen. I don't know if you remember this. The next thing getting ready to happen was a bowling ball getting thrown in.
Yes.
So I'm trying to keep my arms from getting baked, not even thinking about it. Tom doesn't know that I'm getting fucking cooked in there. The bowling ball hits me in my stomach and rolls up and hits me in my chin.
Oh.
So immediately I climb out of the TV, which Tom takes offense out of, but he doesn't know the TV shocking the shit out of me.
Right.
Takes me out on the floor, power bombs me on the floor, says some shit like, I bet you stay down now, kid, you know, some shit like that. Which, whatever.
Right.
And when I'm showing him my arms, I'm like, Tom, there was still electric in the TV. He's like, oh shit, I had no clue. I'm like, I know, but I wanted him to know, you know, I wasn't no selling his shit.
Right.
But just little things like that I wish was on video that will never, you know, we can talk about them, but you saw it. I did it. Nobody will know about it.
Right. And, you know, speaking of memorable things from the K-Mart building, and we were talking about Ox earlier, after you guys had feuded together, you became a tag team, and it was you and Ox Harley versus PG-13.
Well, that will never go away. That somehow
that one's on video, and people can still see that one today. What are your memories of what happened and what caused all that?
I remember being the dumbest one in that match because I was the only one throwing work punches. Everybody else was swinging on each other. So I remember this like the back of my hand. Wolfie said he didn't want to get hit with anything that would cut him. And me and Ox both agreed. Okay, no problem. So Jamie grabs a thumbtack bat out of the crowd. And of course, he can hit me with it all day. No problem. But then he threw it down. So I picked it up, and you can watch it on video. I'm walking at Wolfie at it over my head, waiting on that cutoff, waiting on Wolfie to stop me, waiting. He's not. So I hit him in the back with it. I mean, what else was I supposed to do? Just stand there? And when I hit him in the back, of course, he was already pissed off. He grabbed it out of my hands. He's hitting us in the arms with it. But that's what me and Ox did every weekend. I mean, yeah, we were selling, but we weren't dying. And next thing I know, he hits Ox flush in the face with it, which Ox got a swing in on Wolfie. They get in the ring. Wolfie and Ox do whatever they're doing. They're on the outside, and I remember Jamie came and hit Ox with that hubcap shoot style. I come up behind Jamie because I don't care that Wolfie and Jamie are swinging each other, but I don't want that third person in there. I scoop Jamie up by the back of his neck, pick him up off the ground a little bit, and he goes, Pondo, we're cool. Jamie gets out of prison, and he tells that story in reverse. It's on video, Jamie. I mean, we talked about that, but yeah. And then Ian unleashed the locker room, and you know, I'm still throwing work punches like a fucking idiot. But you know, I wasn't against Ox. I wasn't against Jamie. I wasn't against Wolfie. I was just trying to get through it, you know, and yeah, I was the dumbest one in the match, just throwing these little work punches.
Do you have any other memories from the K-Mart building time?
I mean, Buddy Landell. So here's the thing. IWA Midsouth was really fucking cool from the beginning. But then USWA shut down. And next thing I know, we're surrounded by guys that I was watching on TV for fucking years. Tommy Rich, Buddy Landell, Ricky Morton, Tracy Smothers, Doug Gilbert, uh, fucking, the list goes on and on of these U.S.
Dutch Mantel.
Well, Terry Funk.
Yeah.
All these guys, and I'm just flipping the fuck out, trying my best not to be a fan, but I'm a fan of all of these guys. And not only am I a fan of these guys, I'm in the ring with these guys, flipping the fuck out. I thought it was cool. So 2 years in the business, I wrestled Junkyard Dog.
Okay.
3 years in the business, I wrestled Coco Beware, and I thought that was cool. But I was a bigger fan of USWA than I was WWF or WWE.
Right.
And, I'm hanging out with these dudes, fucking loving every minute of it. Like, I'd hung out with Jamie and Whoopi at a guy named Shelby Adcock's place in Central City, Kentucky, and Beaver Dam, Kentucky. I already knew them two, but getting to hang out with all these other dudes that was USWA famous, I was flipping the fuck out. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, that was one of the things that drew me to the shows, was getting to see those guys. And like, one of the first ribs that Ian ever played on me when I got into the back and was in the dressing room is the first favorite wrestler that I ever had growing up was Tommy Rich.
Yeah.
He was my favorite before he even won the NWA world title.
Oh, really?
I can remember watching him on, because we had TBS at the time, and I'd watch him on Georgia every week. And my mom would go and buy magazines that if she saw that Tommy Rich was on the cover, or that it mentioned that there was a Tommy Rich story in it, because once he left Georgia, I couldn't get Memphis up in Chicago, so I couldn't follow what Tommy was doing at that point. So if she saw him in the wrestling magazines, I had to follow Rich and Idol versus Jerry Lawler, through the aftermags and stuff that she would buy me. And so getting to actually meet Tommy Rich on one of the first shows that I'm in the dressing room, I was freaking the fuck out, and Ian's like, go up and talk to him. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell him. And he's like, well, tell him that he was your favorite when you were growing up. He will love to hear that.
Yeah.
And so I walk up to Tommy and I'm like, Mr. Rich, it's such a pleasure to meet you. When I was a little kid, you were my favorite wrestler. You were what got me to be a wrestling fan. And he just looks at me and he's like, are you calling me a fucking old man, you son of a bitch? And I'm like, what? And he's like, don't fucking call me an old man, you piece of shit. I can still go. I can whoop your ass. And he's like cussing me out. And I'm almost ready to cry before Ian just starts busting out laughing and everybody else laughs. And then I'm like, oh my God, I was about ready to shit myself. I was like, what the fuck? And, and then that first night that I did anything, when Bull Payne power bombs me and does everything. And I had told the story on the first episode of my podcast. I never trained 1 second. Ian never taught me anything. And he's like, okay, well, Bull's going to power bomb you. Bull's going to do this. Bull's going to do that. I had no idea what the hell I'm doing. I didn't know I'm supposed to assist and sit up. I figured big bad Bull Payne can just get me, and he almost drops me on my head because I'm not. And he's like, you big son of a bitch, what the fuck? And he drops me. And I thought I was dead. I thought I was paralyzed. I couldn't feel anything. I was numb. I was like, oh my God, my first night in the ring and I die. And I remember opening up my eyes and looking up, and Dutch Mantel's standing over me and just looking at me. He's like, you alive, kid? I was like, I don't know if I am or not, And I'm like, my introduction to Dutch Mantel is him thinking that I'm dead and me thinking that I'm dead in the ring. But it was so cool to have all those guys on the show, and it was just amazing to see, you would have the USWA guys, and then you'd have the hardcore guys, and then you'd have Tarek and Kickboxer doing shit that nobody had ever seen before with the flips and the high flying, and you got a little bit of everything on those shows.
Well, the cool part about it was having those guys on the show, but after a few shows, having those guys say your name. Hey, Pondo. I was like, what? This is fucking unreal, you know?
It was a great time. It's sad that the building was lost the way it was, and that it changed the trajectory of the company. And going in, do you have any memories of the Total Eclipse Teen Club? I mean, that was a short-lived little...
In between, me and JC Bailey, we just walked in there. At this time, it was a Rule King or something. It was something different other than... It's a Planet Fitness now. I don't know if you know that. But whatever it was before that, me and JC Bailey, we just wanted to see the old K-Mart building. And we walked in there, and some of the people from the bingo hall recognized who he was and kicked us out.
Wow.
Kicked us out of the building. Like, we really don't want you guys in here. And of course, JC can't keep his mouth shut. He's like, fuck you all, you know, and all this. But so we did make it over into the IWA building, and the floor had been broken up. There's a big pile of dirt where the ring used to be. It was kind of sad, but you know, we just wanted to see the inside. We got to see it before they kicked us out. And then that teen center, I hated going to that fucking teen center. I hated it. But that was where Corporal fought Ox Harley in the back.
Yep.
What else is my memories there? Oh, that's where I put Too Tough Tony over for those people. I don't know, just the vibe of I think it was because I was so used to that Kmart building, and then the teen center was just as big as your car, you know.
Yeah, it was so much smaller, the low ceiling, and the crowds weren't anything compared to what they used to be right across the street at the Kmart building.
Yeah, not at all.
But you had mentioned putting Tony over at the teen club. What about the infamous corkscrew off the top of the U-Haul at the armory, and subsequently, like, armories, that playing a part in it, and along with like Corporal's injury that happened at the armory and everything else, to where wrestling no longer being welcomed in the armories for a while?
Well, I don't know if you knew this, but Tim Gunneman will even tell you that was called the Pondo Ian law there for a while. I don't know if you knew that. Somehow my name got thrown in there too, but the Pondo Ian law was no armories. Right. And of course, Jack Kearns hated Ian, which Ian would instigate that shit. He would even say the words, the Pondo Ian law. Jack Kearns would say that. And all I'm thinking to myself is, damn it, I'm just trying to wrestle here, you know? But I had a whole law made against me. I do remember the news guy came to, well, I think it was one of the armories, and did this newscast thinking that because Danny Davis sent this newscaster to do a story on IWA Midsouth, the guy made it seem like he was glorifying us. Then when the show hit, when the segment hit, it was running us down, talking about blood on the crowds and shit like that. Next show, damn near sold out. So their plan to destroy us helped us out tenfold. I will never forget that.
Yep.
Even watching that newscast, I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, we'll be lucky if we had 20 people.
Right.
Lucky us, we had standing room only that next show. Thank you. Thank you,
Right.
guys.
Yep. Uh, those were some days back then with all the different people calling different parts of the government and trying to get the shows kicked out and outlawed and banned. And we always said, beat us with a better show.
That's right.
Don't play your dirty politics. Just beat us with a better show. And but they couldn't compete that way. Next thing I had on my list, and I don't know chronologically how it goes, if it fits into this part or not, but the first real time that I got to spend time around you was taking, in my memory anyway, was taking you and Ian to CZW.
Yeah.
When, drive out there and like a little bit of an Easter egg for people. I don't remember the name of the show or like even a date on it. Was it the first time that you and Ian had went there?
Yes. Well, Ian had went there one time before, and Zandig told Ian, "Hey, why don't you bring that Pondo guy, and we'll let you guys wrestle each other." So, Ian, his big plan was, we're gonna go in there, we're gonna steal the show, and they're gonna give us jobs. So when we got there, ECW's second or third row hat guy, you remember hat guy?
Yes.
Was in the crowd. So Ian is very smart about things. He noticed that guy and he goes, okay, whatever we're gonna do it in front of hat guy. Because if we can get hat guy to pop, we got jobs. I'm like, all right, cool. That's when we came up with, that's when Ian said, does anybody have a pair of scissors? And that guy, Lord Everett, I think his name was Lord Everett. Anyway, he had the big court judge white wig. You know who I'm talking about? Anyway,
yeah,
he had a pair of scissors. What we didn't know was he took them straight out of the package, so they was razor fucking sharp. And that's how Ian got 11 across his dome. I got Ian got 24 across his dome. I got 11 in my arm. They gave me a job. They didn't give Ian a job. So go figure. But yeah, that I remember that.
Okay. And I think on that show, I actually got talked into being a cop that had to go out and arrest some guy that was on the show and put him in handcuffs and lead him out. So there is me actually being on a CZW show one time, agreeing to do, like Ian begged me to do it when the guy, I guess they had a guy that was a real life cop that was on the show or something. And he had like his cop jacket and different things, but they wanted somebody that the people didn't know to play this cop to go out. And so they would think that he was legitimately this guy was legitimately getting arrested. And so I go out there and do it. Ian thought that, yeah, that would help, if I did this for him, cause they were in a bind looking for somebody. Oh, that'll help get the job or whatever. And
right.
What I remember the most though, was taking both of you to the hospital after this show, and the nurses, every single person that worked at this hospital was brought into the emergency room where you guys were at to take a look at the two of you, and see what you guys had done. And then it turned into you and Ian having a no sell off on getting the stitches. And so it was, they're, if I remember correctly, I think they're trying to numb Ian's head, and they broke like 2 needles trying to get through all the scar tissue to numb his head before. And but you were there. So he's trying to be Mr. Tough Guy. So he's squirming and like, I'm not going to sell anything. And so then when they're sewing you up, you're like, well, I'm not going to sell anything. And
No, I didn't get a shot. I was like, just do it.
Yeah. You were like, yeah, don't even numb me. Just do it. And we got like 30 people in this damn room watching this go down. And if I remember correctly, the both of you, like once we got outside, walked in different directions so you could actually sell. It let out a couple of like, damn it, that hurt, before getting back in.
I don't remember that. I remember having to talk the nurses out of not calling the cops because two guys were going at each other with scissors. They're like, you know, this is law worthy, and we're like, no, it's not.
Yeah, not law worthy at all. But that like sort of reminds me of going back to Ox Harley, and I don't know Ox all that well. Just had a few conversations with the man, you know, because he had quit shortly after I had really started going or being involved in the back. But I just remember him telling me one time that, you know, after a match with you and he had needed to go and get stitches, and the doctor was like asking him what had happened, and he was telling him about the wrestling match, and he said that when he was done, that the doctor in the emergency room handed him a card and said, I'm going to refer you to a friend of mine that I think can do you some good. And he said that he like took the card, set up an appointment, not knowing what it was, and the guy had referred him to a psychiatrist.
Oh, wow.
Kind of thing. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's a true story or not. You know, being around the wrestlers, there's a lot of things that you have to take with a grain of salt, but I always just love that little story of, you know, but I could see a doctor being like, you're nuts. You need to go see a professional about this. If somebody tried to explain to them, you know, oh yeah, well, we're good friends and we knew that we were going to do this when we attacked each other with scissors. And now here we are to get, you know, 30 some stitches between the two of us, but don't get the cops involved. And around this same time was when you had started Skull Talk.
Yeah.
Which to this day, I will say is the greatest TV show concept that was ever come up with on the face of the earth. And, you know, it should still be running to this day.
Well, something that would seem like such a great idea was such a fucking headache, because something that could take 15 minutes, hey, girls, take your clothes off, sit on my lap, let me introduce these matches, always turned into, how's my makeup? Let me go look. I got to go smoke a cigarette. Does one boob look bigger than the other? Just sit the fuck down. Just sit down, you know. But so that happened at the K-Mart building. There was an older gentleman who was, do you remember there was some other wrestling on PBS at that time? I don't know if you know that or not. But that guy was telling me how terrible that wrestling was, that you should put this wrestling on PBS. And I told that guy right away, I said, there ain't no way this guy's giving anything away for free. You know, see this on PBS. And he said, you know, I watch PBS a lot. And, you know, the only problem that I have with it is they do a lot of cussing on there. And I was like, oh, really? And then he was like, yeah. And every once in a while, they'll have naked women on there. I'm like, I'm appalled. I had a show in 2 weeks. 2 weeks after that conversation, I was like, my wheels started turning. I was like, shit, I got this, you know? So, yeah. So that was back when I had a web TV. All right. So 3 rules that PBS had. You couldn't advertise anything, but you could put your email address on there. And they put me in between two religious shows. Remember that or not? But the first religious show, every episode would write my web TV, tell me how bad I'm going to hell. The second rule was you couldn't have penis on there, which I didn't want to have penis on my show anyway. And the third rule was no penetration. Okay, so no problem. I remember dropping my videotape off. It was like an old supermarket, but it was the PBS studio at the time. And the electric doors didn't work, but you could push them. And most grocery stores has that one section before you enter the grocery store, like where the shopping carts would go.
Right.
I'm going in, and that preacher that's writing me all the time is going out.
Right in the vestibule, huh?
We lock eyes with each other. We didn't say nothing. I walked on in. I gave him my videotape for the next 3 weeks. He walked out. But by the time I got home, I had that email. I saw you. You saw me. You're going to hell. Yeah.
But he didn't take the opportunity to do it face to face.
Not in person. So then I remember the last episode of Skull Talk. I had this girl using a dildo on herself, and she's moaning really loud while I'm trying to introduce me versus the Sandman. She's moaning even louder, but she's using this dildo on herself. And about that time, I go, "Shut up, bitch!" And she stopped. And I said, "Here's Man Pondo versus the Sandman." And I looked over and I was like, "Okay, go ahead." So that's what got us kicked off the TV, because we did penetration. But I always pushed the envelope. Like I showed pussy on there. You know, I was just always pushing the envelope. And then that one thing got us kicked off. But the cool thing about it was 2 or 3 months later, after they kicked us off, that the PBS guy called me back and said, "Hey, is there any way you could start doing your show again?" And I'm like, what's the big change? And he goes, "Well, people was buying local cable so they could watch your show." That's better than any rating that I could have ever got.
All right. Yeah.
But by then I was so done with it, you know, so because I was doing it all. I was filming it. I was getting the girls. I was putting the 2 VCRs together, splicing everything, and I was just done with it by then.
What? Where were you finding the girls from?
You name it. Any, like, a lot of wrestling shows. There was a lot of girls who just wanted to be a part of something. Real Deal Wrestling for Tower of Doom had strippers as ring girls.
Yeah, I remember being at one of those shows. That was a fun one.
Yeah. I mean, just any girl that I thought would get naked. And then after a few episodes, guys would write my web TV saying, "Hey, can my girlfriend get on there?" You know, so I had an abundance of titties to put on this show. Just not enough patience to put up with what I had to put up with. So
right.
After a while, I was just like, I'm done with it, you know.
Okay, well, you probably do not remember this story, but you had threatened to put me onto an episode of Skull Talk because there was a trip to Milwaukee where there was 2 carloads of us going up to Milwaukee. Yes.
Yeah.
And the car.
Somebody hit you.
Yes. Yeah, we were in a traffic jam in Chicago.
And you got up and pushed the old lady out. And
yeah,
I was filming.
Yep, and you were filming my road rage.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to throw down in the middle of the interstate and screaming and bloody, and you're just hanging out the window with that camera going, "You're on Skull Talk, buddy." But I lucked out. You got thrown off the air before that video. Hopefully that video does not still exist.
Man, divorce, girlfriend. I've lost so much shit over the years, and all them videotapes are gone. Everything's fucking gone.
That is a
So
shame.
you say,
That is a
you
shame.
say.
That is such a shame, and I will go to my grave saying that was my favorite TV show, and we need to revive it now that you could find. There's got to be the. Are you, Kickboxer said you're doing like a show on his streaming service with that guy that helps him with the
Yeah,
books and everything. So
we haven't started that yet because I want a good set behind me. You know, I want something cool behind me before I do that, and I just haven't had the time to set that shit up yet. But yes, that is coming. I'm gonna be like the horror host, like your Rhonda Shear or your Elvira or your Gilbert
Svengoolie,
Godfrey.
where I'm from,
Yeah, I met that dude. I met that dude at Resistance.
Yeah, he's a huge wrestling fan. He's a huge
Yeah.
wrestling fan. But you can do your show with that, and then you can also have him help you produce Skull Talk. Bring back Skull Talk.
I'm gonna put that on now.
Well, put it on his streaming service.
Yeah, you're right. I could do that. Yeah, that's true.
There you go.
I'll tell you what, Jim, you find the girls, and I'll do it.
Yeah, I'm the wrong guy for that. Ain't no women getting naked for me, so I can't help you with that one. So moving on to memories that involve you, I've got next on my list was the grandfather clock incident with Mitch.
To this day, I hate that. I hate that me and Mitch don't talk anymore because I miss that guy. Mitch Page is one of the funniest guys I've ever been around in my lifetime. And shit happened. We don't talk no more. But that grandfather clock was supposed to be mine. Going back to the K-Mart building, me and Ox threw me in a pit of rubbing alcohol. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yes.
A whole bunch of it went down my throat. And by the time I got to the back, like I told Ox, we got to go. This match is over. So by the time I got to the back, my skin was white, total white. And then I went outside and I puked all that up and my color came back. But after that, I couldn't even be around somebody wiping themselves off with rubbing alcohol. If I smelt that, I would start getting sick again. So somebody that same day had put rubbing alcohol in light tubes. So when the light tubes broke, there was rubbing alcohol all over the ring. Yeah. It started raining. You remember that? So
yes.
The rubbing alcohol started fumigating up into my soul. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to puke. I got to get out of this ring. Mitch said, just do the grandfather clock to me. And I did it. And the rest is history. But yeah, I regret that. I regret every fucking bit of that. I went to the hospital with Mitch. I remember the ambulance had a squeegee getting the blood out.
Yep.
And letting it go down into the drain. Yeah, but
the cops ended up coming back to the building because they saw how bloody the ambulance was, and they thought that somebody had gotten shot and had been murdered and they came to investigate what was going on. It was a crazy, crazy night. But yeah, I think it was Roland that had the rubbing alcohol in the light tubes earlier in the show.
I'm not sure, but I just know when that hit my nose, it was time to go again. Like I had to get the fuck out of there.
I'm that way with vinegar because my grandmother always used to like clean her coffee, like run vinegar to clean the coffee pot.
Wow.
At her place. And there was like one day I came over and, she was in the middle of doing the cleaning and the smell was just so potent from this vinegar that it made me sick. And I lost it and threw up everywhere. And to this day, I still can't like be around vinegar or else it makes me sick. So I can understand being triggered by the rubbing alcohol. Around that time, was when you started doing the Japan tours and getting people over to Japan. I wasn't aware, but I think Manawa told me you're one of the few Americans that have actually been the Big Japan Wrestling Hardcore Champion. Do you have any memories of going to Japan and winning, like how you felt when you won that title? And
man, winning that title. So, I'm not a belt mark. Like, I can't stand guys who treat that belt like, I don't know, like an Olympic gold medal or something like that. But for that one, when I won the JCW title, when I won the JCW tag team titles, the Big Japan Deathmatch title, the Big Japan tag team titles, companies that I was, that's Japan, to number one, being over there. This next trip when I go will be trip number 50.
Wow, 50.
I have been there I have taken 49 plane trips there and back. So already that's an accomplishment, but you throw those belts on there as well. You throw going to Mr. Dangerous Steak and him as soon as he sees you, American Danger Man. Being in Corrigan Hall while the whole arena chants Baka Guy Gene. I mean, I got a lot of Japan memories, but that deathmatch title with Violent J in my corner, that has to be up there pretty high.
That's really cool. And do you only get one Ribera jacket, or have you gotten? I don't know how that works.
You're supposed to only get one, but back in the day, I would take the Americans. Any American that came over, I would get them to Ribera, and the guy would give me multiple jackets, which now they're more rare because the company that makes the jackets shut down. But since I've been back, I've gotten 2 of those. Then I've had different color boots and different, like the sizes are different. So I've gotten that guy's permission to buy a couple off of eBay. People hate on me for that. They're like, why would you buy them off eBay? Well, because I want them to be the same color as my boots. He doesn't have those colors. Or I want to be able to button them shut. Sometimes his don't have the sizes of it. But I have had multiple original Ribera jackets over anybody that I could even think of. So those Ribera jacket cops out there can go suck my dick. But it's not like I did it without permission. Right. I'm not a dumbass. I know, hey, I want to do this, but I don't want to disrespect the guy either. Right. I always had permission. But I've had multiple jackets, real Ribera jackets.
Okay, so while we're talking Japan, I don't know. I assume, because to this day, I don't know the real story. I assume you had to have played some role in trying to get it to work. So I'm going to ask you, what really happened with getting our King of the Death matches over there? Because I remember
100% what happened with that. So Ian came to me with the idea. He said, do you think Big Japan would sponsor our guys and do a King of the Death matches over there? I said, let me go talk to him. I'm going on a 2-week tour. I'll be back. I'll let you know what they say. I told Tosaka about it, and Tosaka loved the idea. He said, as long as at least one Big Japan wrestler could be in there. I'm like, no fucking problem. I'm sure one Big Japan wrestler would not be a fucking problem. So I went back, I told Ian about it. Ian told me, he's like, okay, it's a go. I talked to Smart Mark Video. They're gonna come over and film it. And I'm like, now that's 7 plane tickets, 8 including you. And he's like, no problem, no problem. I got this. Smart Mark Video is gonna help me. I go back and I tell Tosaka. Tosaka gets me the date. I remember calling Ian on the phone. I tell him, how about this date? Ian says, let me talk to Smart Mark Video, but I'm sure that's okay. Big Japan rented Corrigan Hall for that show. Corrigan Hall is a pay first, reserve your date after you pay venue. So then I come back and I'm like, Ian, it's getting close to the day. Are you going to start buying these plane tickets? And that's when Ian informs me. He's like, oh, I thought I told you that we wasn't doing that. And I was like, no, you didn't tell me that. I said, Corrigan Hall is set. Corrigan Hall is a date now. And he's like, yeah, no, I really don't have the money for that. I talked to Smart Mark Video later, and Smart Mark Video was going, Mike Burns even told me, well, we was going to bring our guys, but we wasn't going to bring other guys. So I don't know what he's talking about. So anyway, I'm sure he had good intentions, but I'm the one that got fucked in the end. I'm the one that got heat from Big Japan that I had him rent this hallway venue, famous venue, and nothing came out of it. But off of that, I got Toby Klein booked. I got some guys booked out of that. So it wasn't all bad, but there for a while, I was the piece of shit that didn't know what I was talking about. So yeah, that's what happened there. Yes, nobody can tell you different. I just told you exactly what happened right there.
Yes, I just know, like, Ian didn't tell me shit on it. I got excited that I was gonna get to go to Japan and like do commentary or whatever, and ran out and got my passport, and then just all of a sudden he was like, "Oh yeah, that fell through," but he wouldn't say why. He wouldn't say anything about it, and I'm like, "Well, I've got you. I figured that you had to have been an intermediary or
I was the guy for that."
And, yeah, I mean that would have been beyond huge if we had been able to pull that off, but he probably lost plane ticket money at the casino. And
see, I don't know about that part. I was in Japan. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I was going to Japan so many times that I was doing like one IWA Midsouth show a month, and then flying back, and then coming back, and then flying back. I mean, 49 trips. You can imagine how many times during that period I was going back and forth. So I don't know what was going on in the States. I just know what I was told to do. I was told on the telephone, and then when I got back, everything was like, oh no, we don't have the money for that.
Right. Well, I thank you for telling me that version of what actually happened, so I don't have to sit and wonder forever. I mean, not that I would have done anything important on that show, but it would have been a trip to Japan and something to remember, and just never happened. Another big match that happened around this time was the scaffold barbed wire match with JC Bailey. Whose idea was it to do that? Had that even been done anywhere before? I'm not
Yeah.
sure if it was.
Yeah,
And what memories do you have of that?
Masanaga and Yamakawa in Corrigan Hall did it, but they had one across. You know, same setup. It might not even been the same setup. I can't remember if it was I don't remember. I had to go back and look, but um, I had told Ian, let's do 3. That way we can do 3 different bumps out of that. And he agreed, and he's like, but who are you going to get it to do that with? Well, I knew JC was not only a huge Pondo fan, he was also a huge Masanaga fan. So he was the first one that I went to. And he was like, hell yeah, let's do that, you know? So the first bump was he threw me off of it, and then he jumped on me. I don't know if you remember this or not, but Mickey was the referee. And when I first hit the barbed wire, Mickey's underneath me asking if I'm okay, but I know JC's getting ready to jump. I'm like, Mickey, get the fuck out of there. and JC jumped on me. They got us out. We went back up there to the second tier, and that was the Russian leg sweep where the board came down with us. We was bumping whether we wanted to or not at that point. Then we got out of it. We went all the way to the top and did the big suplex down. So one thing that I was very smart about, because Ian wanted to cut piece by piece. That way the setup would be faster. We'll just be able to, and I knew that we was going to go right fucking through that. So it was my idea. I was like, no, make it one piece this way, then one piece this way, which did take a lot longer to set up, but I knew that we wasn't going to go through that. So the top rope suplex, of course, we got cut a little bit, scratched a little bit, but we didn't get like mutilated or anything. The only thing that hurt was when we hit, our shoulders hit. So my shoulder was sore, his shoulder was sore, but I kept my mouth shut and JC kept his mouth shut. Later, because JC wrestled Nate Webb on a Wednesday in Evansville, and then I was wrestling Nate Webb on a Saturday, and Nate was talking about doing this flip over the top rope, and I'm like, Nate, normally I would let you do that, but don't tell anybody. But during that match with JC, I hurt my shoulder, and he goes, oh, that's what JC told me too. Me and JC was both being secret about our shoulders hurting. But I went over to him and I just like put my hand on his shoulder. I'm like, oh, how you feeling from the match? You know? Yeah. And one thing I want to say about that is the match that gets the most hate out of fans. And I don't care if they hate on me. I could give 2 shits what people say about me. They've been saying it since I started wrestling. But JC's not here anymore, and he can't fight for himself. So I wish people would just realize that we did. I mean, nobody hates on MMA fighters for kicking each other in the face. Nobody hates on I don't know, Evil Knievel. Nobody hates on Evil Knievel. But why hate on me and JC for that one bump?
Well, and what I don't, you're 2 grown adults that agreed to do it. Nobody forced you. You weren't held at knife point, at gunpoint, told that you had to do it. It was stuff that you guys came up with that you wanted to do. And, you didn't hurt anybody else. I mean, if you hurt yourself and you come out of it with a banged up shoulder, I mean, that's on you guys, but that's nobody else has the right to sit there and get pissy about it. If it doesn't hurt them, then why do they care?
And I will tell all you guys that write shit about All that for a hot dog and a handshake. All that for $20 and a coupon to rallies. You guys aren't funny anymore. It might have been funny the first time. It's not funny anymore. Just fucking stop.
Yeah, people are very unoriginal with their insults, and it's like, it at least be original and funny if you're gonna, instead of just throwing it. It's like when, me being a heel for as long as I was, 9,000 times I had to hear, gay jokes and stuff. Like, come up with something original,
That's it.
Okay, so all that does is makes me go out and wear a sports bra, or have to wear a skirt, or hug my guys, and we'll play it up. We don't. I mean, you're not being original. You're not hurting anybody. So, come up with something new, or just be quiet about it. Another thing that I had on here that I wanted to talk to you about was the Jerry Springer show.
Yeah.
And getting people onto Springer. So if you could just tell folks like how that came about. And I love the story behind what made it stop.
So you remember the wicked jester with the rubber chicken that everybody hated getting hit with the rubber chicken?
Yes.
His name was Ed Kraft. He went on Jerry Springer and they asked him, "Do you know any crazy people?" And of course, here I am. So I've been on there twice. Once with Tony and Mitch, and another time with my legit 18-year-old girlfriend and her mom. And then after that, they was like, "Do you know any crazy people?" And I was like, "It's a wrestling business. I know a ton." I was getting $100 a guest, and I'm telling you, I was getting them left and right. I was like, $100 a guest. Hey, you want to go on Springer? You want to go on Springer? You want to go on Springer?
Hell, you asked me if I wanted to go on Springer, but I had to turn you down because my grandma watches that, watch that show, and I'm like, I can't be on there.
So, what got it to stop was I was going to Japan regular at that time, so I didn't need the money. And the thing about the Jerry Springer show, if they need somebody at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, they expect you, they're going to call you, and they expect you to get them a guest at 4, 5, 6 in the morning. And it just got so aggravating after a while, and I didn't need the money. So I told him, I don't want to do this anymore. And there was two producers, Kitschy and Toby, who both called me on the phone and was like, "Look, how about just a vacation?" And I'm like, "Nah, really, I'm done doing this shit." But I was getting them so many guests that they would fly me in just to hang out with my guests. And then they always had vouchers for the House of Blues or the fancy restaurants. So I would fly in with my guests, keep my mouth shut about where I was going, but I was always going to eat at these fancy ass restaurants, steak and shit like that. So when I told them, "Yeah, I really don't want to do this anymore," both of them called me and said, "Hey, how about just a small vacation?" I said, No, it's all good. And I got so many people on there for them. But I got to meet interesting people. I met Butterbean. I met Odorous. Me and Odorous, because I was a Guar fan, I talked to him for I don't know how long. I met Ron Jeremy. Just random people, because on the Jerry Springer show, you wasn't allowed to go from green room to green room. But I had so many guests. I had a guest in this green room and this green room and this green room. So I got to go pretty well wherever I wanted to. And it got to the point where Jerry Springer would see him in the hall and he would say, "Hey, Pongo, how's it going?" Never got my name right, but I never corrected him. So
nice. That's great. Do you have any stories to share about your time with Bridget the Midget?
I mean, what do you want to know?
Well, do you just have any good? I know there was at least once or maybe twice that I remember her coming to IWA and being in the locker room.
Yeah, that's a funny one. So on the way to the locker room, I knew IWA Midsouth's locker room, and I knew that I wanted to fuck Bridget the Midget later. So I don't know if you remember this or if any of you was even in the locker room, but I told Bridget, I said, I'll be right back. I went in the locker room and I grabbed a board and I stood up on a chair and I said, I'm fucking Bridget the Midget tonight. Anybody fucks with that, if I can't beat you with my fists, I'll beat you with this board. And I went and got her, right? So nobody talked to her. And on the way back to my house, she was like, God, everybody was kind of an asshole. They didn't even talk to me or nothing like that. I'm like, yeah, a bunch of fucking dicks.
So did you have to chain Corporal to the wall to keep, or was he not on that show?
I might have had that board pointed right at Corporal at that time. I went to, so I was doing a lot of the midget shows at this time. And Puppet and Pod and Tio and all them midgets, they got booked on Man Cow's Macker. I can't remember the word. Man Cow's Maccabee weekend or whatever, some kind of, but it was Man Cow hosting Kid Rock, Buck Cherry, and Fuel with some of his acts thrown in there. So that's where I met Bridget. And I remember, I can't remember this chick's name, but there was this big-titted vampire actress, the one guy who would put a lawnmower on his chin and people would throw lettuce at the lawnmower. I don't know if you ever saw that guy. A guy named T2 that had cancer in his eye. He'd pour beer in his eye and spit it out his mouth.
Jeez.
All types of crazy things. But me and Mitch Page wrestled each other. There was 24,000 sold out people at the Rosemont Horizon. And the show started late. And I'm supposed to be the heel. I'm the very first thing that went through the curtain to go to the ring. 24,000 people who was sitting there bored started cheering. And my little heart just got big. And I was like, yeah. I couldn't even be heel at that point. It was good.
That is awesome. And I've went to a few WWF house shows at the Rosemont Horizon. I could only imagine getting to actually perform there. That would have been something amazing. I had a couple of things before I wanted to get into the shit that you put me through. First, there was a story that I remember you having where you kicked out of an autograph show because you insulted Anna Nicole Smith.
Yeah.
What was the story behind that?
So, Anna Nicole Smith had that reality TV show. And randomly, I was one of the wrestlers. I was walking through. And they said, hey, can you help us out? And I said, sure. What do you guys need? And they said, we need somebody because we're supposed to be here from, I don't know, say 2 to 7. And we want to go ahead and leave. So we need somebody to insult Anna Nicole Smith so we can go ahead and go. I said, No problem. Okay. She's in this room, and I go walking in there, and I had an Asian wife at the time. She wanted to meet Anna Nicole Smith so bad. She got so fucking pissed off that Anna Nicole Smith walked out and didn't say anything to her. So I'm in there, and I walked in the room. I said, "You Anna Nicole Smith?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I said, "I know how your tits got so big." And right away they said, "No, no, 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 no. You're not a normal character on the show. We can't have you say the word tits. We can't have you bleeped. We need you to come up with a different word." I'm like, "All right, no problem." So I said, "You Anna Nicole Smith?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "I know how your breasts got so big." And she says, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "You rub toilet paper in between them every day." And she goes, "What would that do?" And I said, "Well, it worked on that big fat ass. It'll work on those two." And she went fucking nuts and walked out right past my Asian wife who wanted to meet her so bad. So the Asian wife was mad at me. Anna Nicole Smith was mad at me. Paul Abdul was mad at me. Everybody was fucking mad at me. And yeah, that was just a small little thing that happened. That was at E3. We went to E3 that year for the video game. And she was at E3.
Nice.
But I got a picture with her. So
you got what you wanted.
what I wanted.
The hell with everybody else.
That's right.
All right. So let's talk about the things that we did together on IWA shows. And you, sir, are the man responsible for making, or well, not making, but talking me into doing all the craziest shit that I ended up doing in my career. So there was the night that I got thrown barefoot into the thumbtacks managing Necro Butcher, and it's Necro versus Pondo versus Corporal Robinson. And we did two versions. The match ran twice. So I think one was in Highland, Indiana, and then one was like Olytic or one of those other small towns in Indiana. And I remember you just coming up to me and going, "You know, Jim, would you be willing to take one bump barefoot into the thumbtacks?" And I'm like, "I don't know. That sounds pretty crazy." And you're like, "Well, we've done whole matches. Surely you can do one bump, can't you?" And so you came up with this, and I mean, it was a great plan where I jump into the ring to try to save Necro, and I like attack you from behind, and you chase me, and I try to get out of the ring, but you grab me and catch my foot as I'm trying to go through the ropes, and you pull my shoe off as I'm trying to get away, and Corporal stops me from getting out of the ring, and I have nowhere to go but up onto the ropes and to sit up on the top turnbuckle. And then you guys give me the Flair press slam off the top rope into the thumbtacks. And that was the worst pain I ever felt in my entire life. When my foot came down into those tacks, I looked like a goddamn turtle in the middle of the ring, my foot straight up in the air. I would not bring it down for nothing. And Necro's having to drag me out of the ring by the hair because I wouldn't put my foot down to help at all. What are your memories of that?
My first thumbtack match, barefoot thumbtack match, I wear 9.5 shoes, and I think my feet went to 11 or 12 that night, and I had to treat my tennis shoes like sandals. I had to step on the heels but put my toes inside. So I knew that would suck. And I don't even remember anything that you just said. I don't remember it. But if I did talk you into that, I knew that shit hurt, but I wasn't going to tell you that until after you took the bump.
Yeah, you just kept going, "Hey, we can do, you're a big tough guy. You can do one bump. We do it." You just kept saying that over and over again. And And it's stuck in my head. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a big tough guy. I could do one bump. You know, if you guys can go out there for the show and do an entire match, surely I could do one bump. No, I cannot. Let that put the record. Fuck that. Never, never again. So then we didn't do, like, I took a suplex into the tax in the second match, but I told you flat out, I was like, the shoe is not coming off. I'm gonna glue the shoes on for this, because the hell with that. And then the second one was the 8-man tag barbed wire match that we did in Highland, where it was Ian, you, Steve Stone, and Balls Mahoney against me, Carmine, Ryan Boz, and Brad Bradley. And we do the finish.
I got no recollection.
We do the finish. I take the stop sign from you.
Yeah.
Stumble into the Nutcracker Suite from Balls. Ian picks me up and gives me the Rotten Rush double underarm DDT. Steve Stone comes off with the moonsault and pins me. So I take all 4 finishing moves, get pinned. Then you fall down and start choking me, and you've got your stop sign, and you go, your chicken shit partners left you out here. They've already gone to the back. Balls didn't get to hit anybody with a chair. Will you take a chair shot from Balls? The people have to see a chair shot from Balls. And I'm like, I don't know. And you said, he'll go easy on you. So I said, okay. So you and Ian pick me up, and you do the crucifix where each one of you hold my arm out, so I can't like chicken out and try to put my hands up. And Balls Mahoney gives me the chair shot. And to the credit, he did go easy on me for him, because I've seen, like, he did not do Masato Tanaka. He did not do like how he would have done you guys, but it still bent the hell out of that chair, and it still scrambled my brains all over the place. So those were the 2 worst things that happened to me when I got involved in matches in my career, and they were things that you talked me into, sir.
Probably so.
But I will give.
I was always good at talking guys into shit.
I will give you credit during that match, though. You were the only one willing to let me get any offense in that match. And at the time, like, there was legit heat between me and Steve Stone. He thought I would hit him too hard, and so he would like try to kill me in retaliation whenever I would interfere and hit him during a match. And so we were like in the back. We were almost by the DJ table in the Highland building, and we're just tied up, and you were gonna let me do something, and you're like trying to talk to me and say, hey man, you're gonna get your ass kicked at the end. Let's let you do a little something. What do you want to do? And every time we'd go to do something, Steve Stone would come from behind and hit me. And after like the 3rd time that he did it, you just looked at him and said, we're trying to do a fucking spot. Will you stop? And everybody in the crowd's like, what? And so then the only offense I got in the entire match, I gave you an Irish whip into the ring apron, because that was all we had time to do before like Steve Stone would like stop interfering. That was the only amount of time that Steve Stone would give us before he would interfere and cut me off and start hitting me again. So thank you for trying to let me have a little bit of shine in the match and at least get to do something offensive in there.
No problem.
But it's sad. I only got to manage you one time.
Yeah.
There was the ECW arena show that had Necro Joe. I think it was J.C. Bailey, you, and Toby Klein against somebody. And so that was the only time that I managed you.
Was it not me and Nate taking on Ian and Axel?
Not at the show, at the one show that we did it. I think it was JC, you, and Toby Klein against somebody.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember, but it was the only time that I managed you. So I got my Fannin family T-shirt on, and Man Pondo is one of the 45 names on the back of the shirt that had at least one match managed by me. So you got to be one night. So I've got just a couple of questions, quick fire to throw out there that I got from some of my friends that had stuff that they wanted to learn from you. So my buddy Rich Wayne wanted me to ask, who was the hottest wrestler in girl fights, and why was it Mary Elizabeth Monroe?
So here's the thing about running your own girls' company, because girl fights coming back, you cannot say anybody is hot. Otherwise, well, nowadays you get canceled for that shit. But not only that, you will get phone calls from the other girls saying, why is she hotter than me?
Okay.
So it's way better not to answer that. But attitude-wise, it was not Mary Elizabeth Monroe.
Okay. Well, I will have to let Rich Wayne know that one. What were the 5 worst bumps and or weapons that you used or took in your matches?
The pencils is number 1.
Okay, I was told about the pencils. I don't think I was around watching when that happened.
Matthew Justice jumping off a balcony, breaking 2 of my ribs, sending it into my lung, causing it to collapse. But I went back to the ring and did 7 more minutes, was number 2. A guy named the Juggulator hitting me with a wiffle ball bat with real light balls, but hit me on the side over here and cut me real bad, was number 3. Fracture in my skull, hitting it on the ring post with a bolt sticking out of it, was number 4. And I can't even remember number 5, but those 4 suck pretty bad.
Okay. Is there anything other than rubbing alcohol that you won't do?
Razor wire. I think that's just ridiculous. I know what it does to my forehead. I'm not going to land on that shit. And I have learned my lesson. I'm not going to fuck with fire no more because it's just unpredictable.
Okay. All right. Who were your favorite opponents?
Necro, Terry Funk, Mr. Insanity, Toby Klein, Tony. The list is way too long. That Mount Rushmore would be a mountain area of wrestlers.
A whole mountain range for it. That's, well, I mean, you've been in the ring with everybody. So,
do my best.
And do you have least favorite opponents? Anybody that you want to take a dig at here?
Not really. I'm the guy who always wants that return visit. So I'll work with anybody. And even if I have a bad match with somebody, doesn't mean the next one I haven't learned what to do and what not to do, and will work with whoever. So no, not really. I don't have a person that I don't want to get in the ring with.
All righty. Well, I can go ahead and start wrapping this up. Appreciate the time that you've given me tonight. And I see that you're doing stand-up now.
Yeah, well, open mic, but
open mic, okay.
I think it's going pretty good. I got this little routine that I do, and it's 6 minutes long, and it seems to be working. So, but I haven't really done much with it. I've been pretty busy, but Yeah, just be looking for me because I wanna do more with that. I wanna get on the road with that.
Okay. And I mean, would you consider if somebody made the offer, would you consider like I know Mick Foley just goes around and just telling stories at like the comedy clubs and different things around the country, and I think I've seen like Undertaker's done a few like that, and
I could do that, but I don't think people. Okay, so Mick Foley, people recognize that name. Undertaker, people
right,
recognize that name. I don't think Madman Pondo story time would would get non-wrestling fans there, but putting Madman Pondo on a marquee is going to strike interest already that there's a madman going to be doing comedy. And
right.
so yeah, I this thing that I do doesn't have anything to do with wrestling whatsoever.
Okay, all right. So it's a standalone thing with
Yes.
Rich Wayne actually did open mics for a while in the Louisville area and had like a routine that he would do and stuff. And he was such an introvert, but yet he'd get up on that stage and he had some good material. So I hope that's something that works out for you and gives you something that's hell of a lot easier on the body, I would imagine.
Gets harder every year, man. Harder every year.
Yeah. So do you have anything that you want to promote? Any upcoming shows? Any merchandise? Social media?
I can't remember the new webpage for it, but I wrote my own book, Jim, and I'm getting ready to come out with a second one.
Okay.
And you can get that at eatsleepwrestle.com. You can get an autographed copy that way, or you can go to amazon.com. It's called uh shit. I forget what my book's called. Something of a madman. I don't know. I get hit in the head way too much.
Right. But you said it's eatsleepwrestle.com.
Eatsleepwrestle.com or amazon.com.
Well, I'm sure if people are
Memoirs
interested
of
in the book, if they just go to Amazon and search Madman Pondo, the book has got to show up.
Memoirs of a Madman. That
Memoirs.
memoir. That word
Okay.
was
All right. Is there any social media accounts that the fans can follow you on?
man. I'm so terrible at that shit. On Facebook, my name's Kevin Kennedy, Canady. You can write me there if you want.
Okay. And do you have any last things you want to say about IWA Mid-South that we didn't get to before we close up?
So there's a lot of hate about IWA Mid South, but if you get past that and just realize that we were a group of guys that was working our asses off week after week, putting on a product that would make people want to come back and see us, which was pretty successful at that. Uh, just ignore the parts that you hate and try and find some of those parts that you love and check out some IWA Mid South.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Pondo, it was great to catch up with you tonight and to talk to you again. Um, Glad that I reached out to Kickboxer and asked to be put in touch with you. I appreciate your time and coming on here. Everybody go, and that book is bound to be great. Rich Wayne told me that the he has a copy of the book and that it was a very enjoyable read. So make sure that you go to eatsleepwrestle.com or amazon.com and look for Memoirs of a Madman and get some stories that only Madman Pondo can tell. And the stuff that you have done in this business is unmatched, and a lot of people owe you debts of gratitude for getting them to Japan, getting them onto Springer, and making them a known commodity onto the ICP tours, things like that. You've done it all, and say great to see you, and hopefully it's not so long before I see you again. And this wraps up another edition of Fannin's Flashbacks. I'd like to thank Man Pondo for joining me today. Remember to check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/sportsfannin for IWA clips and matches and these podcasts. When you get to the YouTube channel, start by clicking that like button and subscribe. Check out brokenmerchtable.com for t-shirts of Nick Manawa, Jess B's Knees, Mean Mitch Page, Rolling Hard, Mean and Hard. Yours truly, Jim Fannin. And I think, don't you have some t-shirts on there as well, Pondo?
No, on Pro Wrestling Tees I do. I had some on Deathmatch Worldwide, but that shut down.
Okay. All righty. Well, you can go to brokenmerchtable.com for ours, Pro Wrestling Tees for Pondo's. If you're interested in vintage IWA Midsouth t-shirts, give my godson, James Christopher, a follow on Twitter at Candido24K_. And if you're looking to have some design work done for yourself, shoot James Christopher a DM. He does great work. He's the one that designed my t-shirts that are on Broken Merch Table. You can follow me on Twitter at jfannin73 and on Instagram at IWAFannin73. And we'll see you next time on episode 8 of Fannin's Flashbacks. So let it be written. So let it be done. Good day.